I loved it. I'll send you a copy. Bam! Bitch went down.
And welcome back to Horror Queers. We are talking lycanthropy. We're talking periods. We're talking Mimi Rogers. I'm Joe.
And I'm Trace. And Joe, I've been aware that you are ganging up on me today, and that you have brought another Canadian into this recording.
That's right. It's a motherfucking Maple Leaf takeover.
I'm so not angry, but I feel very ganged up on. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, you know her as the co-host of the A Frame Apart and After All podcast, and you've read her work at Rue Morgue, Fangoria, Birth, Movies, Death, and Atom Tickets. Please welcome Ariel Fisher.
Hi. Thank you for having me. And yes, it is a Canadian takeover. Canucks unite. You know,
Yes.
You've got your hands full today, Trace.
I know. Well, no, because Joe has really been trying to push so many secret things that I don't know are Canadian on me. And then when I start doing the research, I'm like, fuck, this is a Canadian film again. Nothing against Canadians. But
You didn't realize this was Canadian?
No, I knew this one was Canadian, but you're the secret Canadian in this episode.
I got it.
I didn't know you were Canadian.
Really sneaky like that.
Yes.
It's also very funny because if you look at the timeline of the films that we've covered, I think out of 26 episodes, I think like 4 or 5 of them are Canadian. So
it feels like a lot
more. The batting
more.
average is really good.
That's a sixth, which whatever percent of that, that's really a lot, but it's fine. I mean, I get that a lot. Actually, I was going to say a lot of them would be American, but we have had a lot of foreign films.
This is also true. Yeah.
Okay, so anyway, we are here, though, to talk about Canadian film Ginger Snaps.
Because this episode is dropping a couple of days before Canada Day.
Oh my god.
Woo!
July 1st,
Canada!
baby.
I'm sorry. Let me drink some of my wine really quick. Hold on.
It's the only way that Trace will get through the entire episode.
This is going to sound like I'm like Canadian phobic. I love Canadians. You're all great. Joe has really opened my eyes into how amazing y'all can be.
So until you met Joe, you thought we were all like a bunch of cowardly lions or something? Like, oh, they're so nice and meek.
No, he just has no concept of like what Canada is.
No, my only exposure to Canadians was South Park, and I thought you all had flapping heads.
Oh, God.
This is
They
what they
fucked
think
us.
of us,
Those
Ariel.
guys fucked us. They fucked us all. Jesus.
So, Ginger Snaps. Now, okay, so I have a couple different things, because there was like a big like Canada versus US like release strategy here.
Mm-hmm.
The film was released in Canada on May 11th, 2001, but it did premiere at TIFF in 2000. And then it wasn't released in the States until October 26th of 2001. So, like, what? June, July, August, September, October. 5 months later. Sorry, I had to count.
Did you use your hand?
I did use my hand.
Okay.
The Canadian distributor was Motion International, and for the US it was Cinema Village. This is 108 minutes long. Longer than I remembered, but it flies by pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
The budget is $4.5 million, but I don't know if that's Canadian money or if it's US money.
Probably Canadian.
That's my bet. Yeah.
Okay, so that's like probably like 3.75 million American.
Well, it depends on what the exchange rate would have been at the time.
This is true. Yeah, there was one, I think like a brief period somewhere in the 2000s where our dollar was actually stronger than yours, but generally you can assume almost a doubling of value. So this would be, oh no, sorry. Ours is a doubling.
Not a doubling.
Yeah. What am I saying?
Not quite that much. But there's a disparity. There's a little bit of a disparity.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this would have been the equivalent of, what do you think, Ariel?
It would have been a little bit
3.5?
less in US. Give or take. Maybe a little bit more than that.
Yeah, maybe it was 4 million, but it wasn't more than 4.5 million. Like, because the Canadian dollar's worth, I don't know. Economics is one of the only classes I made a C in high school, so you know it's not for me. So the box office money I have, so I think it's mostly American, although I do have the Canadian gross. There was no opening weekend rank, I don't think, but it opened in one theater in the States with $1,430. Ended its run with $2,554. I did pull the release, or like the production like section from Wikipedia. It seemed like it had a very hard road. It really blew up at TIFF. It had like a lot of positive word of mouth, and then basically Columbine happened. Or maybe it was like, because Columbine was 99?
Yes.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, this got released, like, and like it premiered and everything after Columbine, and it just kind of really fucked this movie. It ended up in Canada making 425,753 Canadian dollars.
You say that with such disdain.
It's like he might as well be talking about rubles or something.
Basically.
Basically. So, I mean, it didn't make a lot of money, but I think it was a big hit on home video. I mean, this has become a huge cult film for the horror community, I feel like.
Yeah. The impact of this film was not financial, it's cultural.
And it has been throughout, like even still, people are obsessed with it. The fan base around Katharine Isabelle alone is enormous.
Oh, I mean, she's a huge... And my introduction to her was actually Freddy vs. Jason, because I didn't see this until later. And she... yeah. But she's like a sex symbol. And I mean, like, she's easily the best part of this movie. I mean, no offense to Emily Perkins, who I do like.
Well, she gets the flashy role, right?
Yes. She gets to be the sex pot. She gets to dominate the scene and really chew the scenery way more than Emily Perkins got to.
Although I will tell y'all, and we'll get into it later, but I love Mimi Rogers in this movie.
Me too!
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Everybody does. She's like your wacky mom.
Yeah, exactly. She's my favorite character. Absolutely.
She's the best. Well, and like, because like she doesn't really do horror, although she was in Ash vs. Evil Dead in the first season, but she picked up on obviously a lot of the black comedy in the script, and that's what she gravitated towards. And I love that she's like this 50s housewife, and I hate that she basically disappears during the climax of this movie, and you don't see her come back, but we'll get to it.
That's actually one of the big complaints of people when they first see this. They're always like, so the mom just fucks off? But yeah, we'll get to it.
We'll get to it. So yeah, but reception again was very positive. We're looking at an 89% on Rotten Tomatoes, and that's with 57 reviews. So I mean, it's it's not like it's like a 12 review thing here.
Right.
And 78% from audiences. Metacritic, you're looking at a 70 out of 100 and a user score of 8.1 out of 10. So people do like this movie, and I will confess, this is my second viewing. I liked it a lot more on this viewing than I did on my first one when I was in high school.
I'm sorry, you didn't like it when you saw it in high school?
I didn't dislike it, but I was very much in the kind of vein of like, it's fine. I know. But I think, and this may be my high school self talking, but I think it was because I didn't really like where the story went. I didn't like the ending of this movie, so it might have been one of those cases of like when people go see a horror movie and it has a sad ending and they give it like the F cinema score. It's like, oh, if you have a sad ending, people are like not gonna like it. I think that may have been what affected me, and I don't think I thought that the movie juggled the tone between black comedy and horror very well. I felt differently this time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Very interesting.
But before we get, just dive into the film, I just want to point out, so directed by John Fawcett, who people may know him. He did a lot of directing on Xena Warrior Princess, which is why you may hear Lucy Lawless in the PA system of this movie. And then he also co-created and directed a lot of Orphan Black, which is a very, very, very good show.
Yes, and Canadian people will know that he's directed a lot of Canadian television.
Yeah, and that might, because when I looked at his IMDb, I didn't know a lot of the stuff. I think he also did like an episode or two of Spartacus, which Joe, you and I have talked about is amazing.
Indeed.
And also the Orphan Black connection because Tatiana Maslany is the little girl in Ginger Snaps 2.
Oh, yes.
Oh.
Yeah, which I think we'll probably touch briefly on the sequel and prequel at some point as well.
Yeah, I haven't seen either one since high school, and I remember not liking the sequel, but kind of enjoying the prequel. But Anyway, so he, Fawcett co-wrote this with Karen Walton, so we did get a woman's POV in this script, which I do appreciate. I think it shows a lot. But she also wrote an Orphan Black with him. And they also both worked on Queer as Folk, the US version.
Mm-hmm. Because it filmed here in Toronto.
Yep. That makes sense.
Secret Canada.
We're everywhere. You can't get away from us.
I know! Damn it!
Like, literally, we're connected. We're right on top of you.
I love Canadians, you guys. I really do. I mean, it's great.
Okay.
Listeners, I'm being totally I'm going to come across like a huge anti-Canadian asshole. Okay, so, that is my spiel. Y'all's turn. Take it away. Someone.
Okay. Do we want like a
plot summary?
Or...
Damn it! Yes, sorry. Tell us what it's about.
I love it. We're 26 episodes in and Trace is still figuring out the format.
I know. I forget that Joe exists sometimes, to be honest. It's just me talking.
That's the narcissist in you, sweetie.
Yeah.
I feel like I should give you guys a minute. Like, should I leave the room for a second?
No, it's fine, Ariel. It's totally fine.
It's like a lover's spat. There's just very little love.
That's right. Give your fucking plot summary. I'm gonna drink my wine because I literally just watched this movie before we recorded.
Excellent.
Nice.
Okay. Will you guzzle and I'll speak? Okay. So, Ginger, Katharine Isabelle, and Bridget, Emily Perkins, are bored teen sisters with a death pack living in the suburb of Bailey Downs. The pair are outcasts at school and eager to avoid the attention of their overbearing and extremely chipper mother, Pamela, Mimi Rogers. After a rash of missing and mutilated pet remains are discovered around town, Ginger is attacked by a werewolf on the night of her first period. The creature is then immediately struck by teen drug dealer Sam, Chris Lemche? I should have figured that one out.
I didn't know if it was Lemche or Lemke, and I was trying to figure out where I knew him from, and he's the douchebag in Final Destination 3.
Yep.
Everything comes back to Final Destination, too.
Wait, I'm sorry. Yeah, because also the kid that plays Jason is in Final Destination 3, but he dies in the roller coaster. But I don't know where I knew Emily Perkins. Emily Perkins? Yeah, Emily Perkins. I always get her confused with Elizabeth Perkins.
Not the same.
Totally different. But I was like, where do I know her from? I know that face from somewhere. It's because she's fucking Beverly in the miniseries of It.
Yep.
Did not know that.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. As a little girl. Yeah.
Interesting.
Anyway, continue.
Okay. So the creature is hit and killed by Sam's van. Over the following weeks, Ginger begins to transform. She sheds her layered clothing for tighter, sexier outfits. She grows hair in odd places. She develops a cute little tail, and her hair begins to turn white. As Ginger strays further and further away from her sister, she kills a dog, gets in a fight with mean girl Trina, Danielle Hampton, and begins spending time with dumb jock Jesse Moss, whom she eventually mauls in a reverse date rape scenario. Bridget's concern over her sister's behavior prompts her to seek out Sam. The research identifies monkshood as a possible cure, which is proven true when Bridget is later attacked by an infected Jason. Alas, Ginger cannot be contained. She kills Trina and escapes imprisonment in the house in order to attend the high school Halloween party, where she murders first the guidance counselor, then the kindly janitor, before finally attacking Bridget. In order to prevent Ginger from killing Sam after a failed seduction, Bridget deliberately infects herself, then she and Sam knock Ginger out. Unfortunately, Ginger completes her transformation in the van en route home. Sam is almost immediately killed, leaving only Bridget, knife in one hand, cure in the other, to face her sister down in their childhood bedroom. In the ensuing fight, Bridget accidentally, stabs and kills Ginger. The film ends ambiguously with the sisters cradling each other. It is unclear if Bridget will use the cure and live without her sister, or effectively die by continuing her own transformation.
Yeah.
I love this movie so goddamn much.
I really do like. I don't like the ending.
Really?
I know. It's because it's a down. It's just me being like wanting to see a happy ending. But I did forget how amazing the effects are in this movie.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the director specifically did not want to use any CGI, and it shows. The only thing I had an issue with were Bridget's teeth. I thought that because she lisped the whole time. I mean, sorry, not Bridget's teeth. Sorry, Ginger's teeth.
Oh, there we go. I'm going, wait a minute. What am I missing?
I'm sorry. The only thing I didn't like was Ginger's teeth, because you could tell it was like a mouthpiece and she was lisping. But not important. Otherwise, it's great.
Nah.
The werewolf looks awesome.
Yeah. I think that's actually one of the reasons why people enjoy this film from a visual perspective, because the appearance of this werewolf is so unexpected. Like, we are used to terrible CGI, or the two 70s benchmarks, right? Either The Howling or American Werewolf in London.
I think those
and
are
a
80s,
little
by the
fucking
way.
80s. But like a little Canadian film can't compete with that kind of thing. So when you actually do see the werewolf, you could quibble with a little bit of how it looks kind of in that final confrontation scene, but at the end of the day, this motherfucker looks good. It's like this and Dog Soldiers are kind of the benchmark of the 2000s and beyond.
Yeah, and it definitely elicits that kind of classic transformation feel when they're in the van.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you get a lot of American Werewolf in that scene. And it's not, you're right. In the final confrontation, it doesn't look perfect. There are parts of I guess it's animatronic. There are parts of the actual end product wolf that look a little wooden and kind of stiff.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, like, it's a great character design. and they did a really good job with it.
It is, and I mean, this maybe isn't the best, like, route to take for this podcast, but I mean, like, I'm always perplexed by the studio willingness to, like, cover up questionable practical effects with questionable CGI, because I would rather take this rubber-looking werewolf, which I believe because it's there,
than it has a physicality to it.
Yes,
exactly.
than this cheap-looking CGI and grant, obviously, there is CGI that can look. The best CGI is when you can't tell it's CGI, but if it's this whole character, like, you're watching, like, the Scooby-Doo movie, it's like no one gives a fuck. But
when you're watching The Thing, the most recent
Thing, Right, no, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
And they did do practical effects for that, and the fucking studio went over it with CGI, and it's like, okay, it's not like that was going to help the box office for your film.
No. And, like, did they not even see the original film? Did they not see all of that amazing makeup and special effects that were done?
Mm-hmm.
I can't. Everything they did with that pissed me off so much because of everything Rob Bottin did. But anyways, I digress.
Yeah.
Not important.
Even if you hate this movie, you have to appreciate how it looks. And for, again, with a pretty low-budget film, honestly, maybe in 2000, maybe not as low because of the inflation, but still, I mean, it looks great. I think it's filmed a little bit like a TV movie, but it's fine.
It's fine.
One of the things that speaks to me about this film is that it's fairly evident that John Fawcett had a very clear vision of what he wanted to do. I actually had the advantage of listening to his audio commentary when I did the rewatch for this, so I got a bunch of different insights, but he had very specific ideas about how he wanted to light it. Like, he wanted to have particular color schemes for the bedrooms to reflect their transformation and their journey as sisters. He wanted to use a kind of orangey light when they're in the park or when they're at the school so that you can see the kind of changing of the seasons. He's obviously a very deliberate director, which I think is one of the benefits of being a bit of an indie horror person, because you've got more artistic control. Like in Canada, there isn't a real studio system, so he got money from the province and from the Space Channel and from the movie network, and then he basically just got to go off and do whatever the fuck he wanted.
I do have something to say about the funding of the film. Actually, also the lighting too, by the way. Apparently they filmed this movie mostly at night, and so they had to light it like insanely for the daylight scenes, so the light was so bright that you could see it from an airplane.
Oh, damn.
Anyway, so just basically, they encountered trouble financing the movie. They approached producer Steve Hoban, with whom they'd worked before, and they meaning John Fawcett and Karen Walton.
Mm-hmm.
And he agreed to produce the film for them. Hoban employed Ken Chubb to edit and polish the story, and after 2 years, and this is 1995, so 1997, they were ready to seek financiers. Motion International committed to co-financing and Canadian distribution, and Trimark Pictures agreed to be the co-financer, U.S. distributor and international sales agent. As we are aware now, that did not happen. The film seemed ready to go into production by the fall of '98, but negotiations with Trimark caused the producers to miss the budgeting deadline for Telefilm Canada, the Canadian Federal Film Funding Agency.
Yeah, that's like our big funding agency for films in Canada.
Gotcha.
It's where the majority of people get their money.
Yeah.
Well, so rather than go ahead with only 60% of the funding, the producer Hoban decided to wait a year for Telefilm's funding. During this interval, Trimark dropped the film. Lionsgate Films, who Trimark would end up merging... I know. Lionsgate, who Trimark would end up merging with in 2000, took Trimark's place, and Unipix Entertainment agreed to distribute the DVD.
Which maybe explains the one theater.
Yes.
Yeah, that's...
It's upsetting.
It's sad. That's really upsetting. I didn't know that.
And obviously, when they were casting, when they were casting the film, once they secured financing, that's when Columbine happened.
Right.
So basically, a casting director was easily found for Los Angeles. Canadian casting directors proved to be appalled by the horror, the gore, and the language. When one finally agreed to pick up the film, the Columbine shooting and another school shooting in Alberta suddenly thrust the public spotlight on violent teens. The Toronto Star's announcement that Telefilm was funding a teen slasher movie was met with a flare. I know.
Oh, God.
Sub-genres matter.
Hey, it's Toronto Star. This is y'all's paper.
No, I'm saying this is like layman's trying to understand the horror film.
Well, exactly. Right.
Exactly. So that obviously, the film was met with a flurry of debate and outrage in the media, which generated a significant amount of adverse publicity in proportion to the size of the budget, which, again, $4.5 million, possibly Canadian dollars.
You have to remember, like, Cronenberg and Adam McGowan, which we talked about in the 2 previous Cronenberg episodes, they're kind of Canada's big shining stars, and even they were often working with maybe $10 million budgets at the height of their popularity.
And Cronenberg would usually talk about the fact that he felt it was unfair that people like him were always getting the telefilm budgets and small indie filmmakers weren't, despite the fact that those budgets and certain grants were created with independent filmmakers that were trying to break out in mind.
Yeah. Because they literally were like, how are we going to get our money back if we don't have Adam McGowan or David Cronenberg making this movie? So the fact that they had to wait all those extra years and all the financing was falling through, it's a wonder the film got made.
Yeah.
It is. Well, and they filmed it in 6 weeks. And basically, back to the lighting thing that I was mentioning, and I'm sorry, I digressed hardcore, but basically, they were shooting for so long that they pushed the earliest possible start later each day until the scenes written for day were being shot after the night. So the director of photography solved the problem by using diffusion gel and 4 18-kilowatt lamps, which generated enough light to be seen, a mile into the sky, not from a plane. That's like 30,000 miles. So I was wrong. But a mile into the sky.
Apparently the most obvious example of that is the scenes in Sam's greenhouse. Those were actually shot at night, and they basically just positioned giant lights over so that it flooded and made it look like it was being shot during the day.
It makes sense in hindsight, but I wouldn't know if you didn't tell me.
No, I wouldn't either.
Yeah. Like, now I'll go back and rewatch it and probably be like, oh, okay, yeah, I can totally tell that.
It looks so bright when you look at the light coming through the glass at the top. You're like, oh, okay, yeah.
Do y'all like dogs? Because a lot of them die in this movie.
Oh, boy.
Yes.
Yeah,
so Fawcett
that's a
actually
thing.
had a piece about that. He said that he deliberately decided to go with dogs getting killed in this because he knew about the sensitivity that people have to dogs always dying in Hollywood films.
Interesting.
I like that we don't see a dog die.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always just the practical dog corpse.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make it better, I wonder?
For me, yes, absolutely. There's something about seeing a dog in distress that absolutely upsets me. Obviously, I'm not saying that the corpse of a dog doesn't upset me, but it's not as emotionally wrenching.
That makes sense. No, that makes perfect sense, actually. Because I know a lot of people are, especially now, because we keep getting dogs being killed on screen as part of plot development, which is kind of, but this seems to have a function. And actually, that's a really interesting point about, you're not seeing the dog in distress. So I kind of, that makes perfect sense, actually.
And it's even used to comedic effect, like when the little fat boy walks out and he's like calling his dog and he just like drops it, like, the editing is really good and he just screams. It's, again, I never thought I would laugh at a dog's death, but it's, you don't see it.
I will say this, though, that stupid fucking kid is wearing his ice skates on concrete. Kid, this is like Canadiana 101. Don't do that.
But apparently he has his skate guards on.
I mean, still, get rollerblades. Come on. It's so bad.
It was a point of contention.
Is that common in Canada that you wear you're not supposed to wear ice skates on concrete because it dulls them?
It's common for anyone who uses ice skates. Like, any hockey player would look at
ice?
But yeah, not on concrete. It's like, guys, come on. You're dulling your blades. You're getting shit rusted. Stop it. You're stupid.
It'd be like wearing skis out, but not on the ski hill.
That actually just made me cringe. I'm more Canadian than I know. That idea makes my skin crawl.
No, we all have our things.
Yeah, I didn't know that was a thing. Apparently it is.
Okay, so Ariel, what was your first impression of this film?
I wish I could remember the first time I saw it, but I was a teenager, and I do remember because it was filmed in, I want to say Mississauga, if I'm not mistaken.
It was filmed in Brampton.
Brampton. Okay, same thing. So
and Scarborough, wherever that is.
Same thing. Yeah, Scarborough and Brampton are both basically the same thing.
Okay.
They're the suburbs of Ontario. The suburbs of Toronto, anywhere around the GTA, are all basically different versions of the same cookie. So
sure.
Yeah.
If you say so.
Basically. But
I I don't know Canadian geography.
You have no reference.
Just imagine a suburb outside any major metropolitan city.
Yeah, the neighborhood that you see in this film, it's basically all of the suburbs of Toronto. That's all of them.
And John Fawcett actually said that it's a real neighborhood, but he said it's also identical to the one he grew up in Edmonton, which is on the other side of the country.
True. Because it looked exactly like Richmond Hill and Thornhill where I grew up. So I remember watching the movie being like, oh my God, that looks like the school down the street. Maybe they shot it there, and thinking that was really neat because it made it feel a lot more accessible.
Mm-hmm.
But the big thing for me actually had to do with Katharine Isabelle, because I had the biggest crush on her, and I didn't know what the hell was going on.
Oh.
Well, I was too young, right? And I didn't know okay, backstory, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know I was queer or pansexual until maybe a couple of years ago. Like, I wasn't able to define it.
Do you mind if I ask how old you are? And we can edit this out, by the way, if you don't want it on air.
No, that's fine. I'm 31 years old. So I knew that I was different, that I looked at girls and boys in the same way, but I didn't quite understand why or what it meant most of my life. But I went through a lot of turmoil whenever I tried to talk to anybody about it, and being, kind of, it's some nasty shit. I won't get into it now. But I didn't even know what pansexual was until I came out to a friend of mine and said, I think I'm bisexual. And she was like, actually, I think this might fit you better. And she explained it to me. I'm like, holy shit, yes, I never knew this existed. So watching Katharine Isabelle when I was like in my early teens, maybe, was really weird and conflicting, because I felt things, but I didn't know that those things were okay. So watching her, and I wanted to both be her and be with her.
That's always the best and the weirdest.
So weird. It's so weird. And I have wanted to replicate her kind of mostly transformation when she walks into the costume party for Halloween or something 1,000,000 times. But also, I do not have Katharine Isabelle's physique, so that would make me way too uncomfortable.
Would that we all had Katharine Isabelle's physique.
Tell me about it.
I was actually uncomfortable with how thin she is in this film. I didn't remember her being she looks too thin to me.
I think she's always looked like that, though.
She does. Even in person, she looks healthy, but she is just naturally a very thin woman. She has very narrow hips. Yeah.
Have you had a chance to interview her?
I haven't interviewed her, but I've I was at a...
You stalked her on the con circuit, didn't you?
I did. No, I didn't.
Oh, I would have done that fucking too.
No, it was at the Toronto premiere of... Yeah, I guess the Toronto premiere of American Mary. And it wasn't
No, I love American. I love American Mary so much.
I heard the grunts and I was like, wait a minute, is this a love-hate thing? What's going on?
No, it's total love. That movie it's the Suska Sisters' best movie, hands down.
Oh, yeah, hands down. And they were there, and Katharine was there, and it was this cocktail party for the Toronto premiere of it. It had already had its premiere at Toronto After Dark. So this was several months later, and it came back to Toronto for a theatrical release. So she was there for that, and super, super nice. She's the sweetest person in the world. Actually, it was really funny because I went into the bathroom to touch up my lipstick, and she came out of one of the stalls and then complimented me on my lipstick and said I looked gorgeous. So I had a bit of a heart attack and had to leave. And then I went up to Jen and I was like, Jen, Katharine told me I was beautiful. And she's like, well, I mean, you are. I'm like, I can't take it. It's too much. I start freaking out.
That's fantastic. It's always also nice to know when the people you idolize might be the wrong word for it, but you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. When they're actually nice, decent people. Because I've met some people that I'm like, oh fuck, they're kind of assholes, and that sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's always a danger of meeting your idols.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's interesting that you mentioned that you don't like, not that you don't like, I'm sorry, that you didn't know about pansexuality until you kind of realized that that's what you were. Because honestly, I didn't, even as a gay man, I just assume it was gay, lesbian, bi, trans also, of course. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to think of the first time I heard of pansexuality. I feel like it probably was sometime in my late 20s, because I didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
Should we maybe do a definition in case people are like, I have heard of it, but I don't know what it is, or I've never heard of it?
Yeah. generally, at least the way I define it, the way I've come to define it for myself is that you are interested in people regardless of sexuality or gender, any of that. So I can be as equally attracted to a man as a woman, as a trans man, as a trans woman, as a gay man, as a straight man, as, you know, whatever. It doesn't matter. It's kind of just, I just see people. I don't register gender as much, really.
I think that's something that's, I mean, it's always existed. Obviously, you know, people just couldn't figure out what it was. And, you know, it goes into the question of, you know, like, do we want labels? Because I know some people aren't big into labels. But I think it's something that's become more applied, I guess, as, you know, gender fluidity has become more commonplace, at least to talk about in, you know, mainstream society.
Oh, yeah, completely. And at least for me, because for years, I mean, I kept flip-flopping between, am I gay, but I really like men, but I kind of like women? Am I bisexual? Like, but that doesn't feel right. Like, it never felt right whenever I tried to define what was going on. And then as soon as my friend mentioned the term and I started researching it a little bit more and actually looking into it, all of a sudden it was like, and this is going to sound so melodramatic and stupid, but it was like my heart opened up and I felt normal for the first time in my life. It just made sense. That and Joe, I'm sure you can back me up on this, but that doesn't sound stupid, because I feel like for any person, whether they're straight, queer, like whatever, there's always a moment where you do understand yourself. And that description you just gave, like, applies to it perfectly. And I mean, for queer people, you know, this is that moment, because, like, you know, you have to, like, understand what you are and accept it and be okay with it. I'm sure straight people have something along those lines. I don't know. Maybe it's like some weird kink they have or something. Why do I like strangling my balls? I don't know, but I like it.
Why do I like putting on fake werewolf talons and scratching myself?
But no, I mean, like, totally, I don't think it's cheesy at all. I think that's great.
Thank you.
And I'm glad you had that moment.
Me too. It made a big difference.
And Katharine Isabelle, if you're listening.
Thanks for helping. Thanks for helping.
But to segue back, though, that's
kind
of what... No.
This is what we do.
This is what we do.
Totally applicable.
But that is kind of what Ginger has to do in this movie. Going back to my first viewing experience, I think that's why I didn't love it, because I was like, I wanted her to be like, oh yeah, I'll take the cure and be with Bridget because we're sisters. And the fact that they don't ever reconcile is so upsetting to me. And I still don't like it.
Well, I would actually argue that they do reconcile, just not Ginger. Like, Bridget clearly reconciles. Like, that's how I always interpret that final scene, where she could just give herself the cure and be done with it, but instead she cries and then maybe takes it, maybe doesn't, but the final image is her back with her sister like they were at the beginning of the film.
The big thing with me with the ending is that ultimately it doesn't matter what she does. Bridget, throughout so much of the film, she's at Ginger's mercy a lot of the time. And Ginger is a bully. She is. Like, let's call a spade a spade. She keeps her under...
she is.
Yeah, she keeps her under her thumb all the time. She bullies her into doing what she wants her to. And eventually she tries to bully her into suicide. She tries to bully her into becoming this thing.
Yeah, the literal death pack enacted.
Yeah, exactly. And she decides she doesn't want to because she's, you know, finding things out about herself that she likes, that she can be self-possessed and self-possessed beyond Ginger's capacity for including her, right?
So do y'all view this more then as Bridget's story than Ginger's?
Oh, yeah. Both, really, for me.
I would probably give Bridget the edge, if only because we tend to get a bit more insight into her psyche and what she's going through. We're seeing what's happening to Ginger through Bridget's eyes. But at the end of the day, I mean, to me, the reason that this film has found an audience and the reason that it strikes such a chord with the horror community, and I think particularly with women, is because it is a story about sisterhood first and lycanthropy second.
It's also a story about losing control. It's a story about finding yourself and your own inner strength and your own inner power at the same time as struggling to reconcile who you are with what society expects of you. I mean, if we look at Ginger's transformation and this venture into lycanthropy, it's really just an analogy for women coming of age physically. And, with the increased sexual drive and sexual desire. And that is, I mean, from the get-go, she was a prude, right? She hadn't had sex. She wasn't going to put up with the popular guys and everything. And then she does. And she comes into her own as this person, this human who has a sexual appetite. And it goes completely to the other end of the spectrum.
Because the metaphor for puberty is very on the nose. I mean, not on the nose. It's very obvious. And I've actually never seen a film, horror or otherwise, take menstruation, like, to such degrees as this movie does.
So you've never seen Carrie?
Well, okay, I apologize.
Or The Exorcist?
Or Blew My Mind?
I've never seen Blew My Mind. I've never seen, but I know.
Actually, I haven't seen that yet either.
Oh, if you guys like Ginger Snaps, it's like a really good double bill.
But it's a mermaid movie, right?
It's a secret mermaid movie.
See, though? Okay, no, fuck you. Because it went to Fantastic Fest, and it literally, I think even the description was like, it's a mermaid movie. So... Yeah.
It's the same kind of deal, though, where I think people do it a disservice if they say, like, oh, it's just like, it's a girl, like, it's a lesbian coming-of-age film with some mermaid stuff in it.
Well, just so you know, it's on Shudder right now, and the, like, preview image for Shudder is her as a mermaid, which is apparently the money shot at the end of the movie. So
yeah, like, the whole movie is her transforming in the same way that Ginger is here. Like, it's a very slow process, and it's all about confusion. Like, my body's changing. I don't know what I'm feeling, but it's tied to burgeoning sexual appetites. And in the case of Blew My Mind, it's one girl for another, like a girl that she's attracted to.
Oh, it's queer too?
Yeah.
Fuck, we got to add to our list. Okay, sorry.
It's already on there.
Oh, I didn't know that. Anyway, but no, so, I mean, okay, so, because Ginger and Bridget, they're 16 and 15 respectively, they have not had their periods yet.
Yes, which is exceptionally late.
Yeah,
which incidentally is another thing I relate to, because I didn't get mine until I was about their age either. Turns out it's because of a condition, but I didn't get mine either. So I related to them a lot.
Wait, what kind of a condition?
It's called polycystic ovary syndrome. No, I really don't mind. I don't. I'm an open book, man. You can ask me anything. Seriously, I will tell you. So it's polycystic ovarian syndrome, or polycystic ovary syndrome, also known as PCOS for short. But generally, women typically will get their first period much later, and then their periods are irregular consistently. We're talking once every 2 to 3 months, give or take, which means that those symptoms of PMS last just twice as long. It's great. It's awesome. Oh. But on top of that, it can lead to other problems. It can long-term lead to infertility. It puts you at a higher risk of uterine cancer. It puts you at a higher risk of diabetes. Like, there's a lot of nasty stuff that comes with it if you don't manage it, but it's remarkably easy to manage if you can get the right treatment. For the most part, it's basically just being on birth control. So hormonally regulating, to get nice and horrific and gruesome, shedding your lining. If you can regulate that so it doesn't create cancer cells, for instance, not, eating too much, stuff like that. But it's finding the one that doesn't make you nuts, because Lord knows oral birth control sucks.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting that you say, though, it's gross shedding the lining, because, I'm sure there are a lot of men who are grossed out by the thought of, what a period actually is. And so I appreciated that this movie took time to have a woman explain exactly, in very graphic detail, what a period is.
So good. Oh my god.
It's so great. And it's played for laughs a bit, but it's not like making fun or like, looking down on the process, because it's a natural process. I mean, and the late bloomer thing, because my sister, she's 2 years younger than me, but she always looked older than me, so people thought we were twins for a while because we were the same age, and then she got taller than me. And girls typically go through puberty before boys. So my sister, got her period, oh god, sorry, Haley, she doesn't listen to this. But she got her period when she was 10. Whereas I didn't start going through puberty until I was 13 or 14. So it was pretty late for me. So watching this, because I forgot that was kind of a plot point in this movie, I resonated with it. I mean, I get that I'm a man and not on the same wavelength, but that feeling of, I'm not going through something that my peers are going through.
Oh, yeah.
Really affected me in a strong way.
Mm-hmm. And it's a weird feeling to have. It's a weird position to be in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You worry that something's wrong with you, that something's not right.
Oh, I mean, I remember being in the locker room and being like, why don't I have underarm hair? like not wanting to lift my arms up because I didn't want to see, I didn't want the other boys to see that I didn't have underarm hair. Anyway.
But I think that's also why these films work as well as they do, right? Like the bathroom scene that opens Carrie, the way that the girls are treated as outcasts here in Ginger Snaps, like it's another opportunity to identify how isolated and how weird you can feel, particularly as a teenager. That's why coming of age horror has that emotional capacity that we don't always see. Like, I can't imagine this film working half as well if these two were a decade older.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you could still make it work. It wouldn't resonate as much, probably.
Well, you could do it about, like, sisters and the way that they look out for each other, but it would just be, like, a derivation of a family drama, right?
No, because, okay, so, it's a totally different movie. But I feel like not enough movies are made about, like, the trials and tribulations of being in your 20s. Especially, like, your mid to late 20s, where you're crossing the threshold from, like, oh, because, young 20s are like, oh, like, you're still kind of going crazy, like, you're kind of having fun, and then you're like, oh, wait, I have to be an adult and have a life, so...
I feel like those are the horror movies that are all set at, like, people having a corporate job, where you're just like, oh, is this my adult life now? I have to go to the office. I have responsibility. I have to pay bills.
Yeah. It's like they go from one end of the spectrum to the other. It's your early 20s or you're partying too much. And then by the time you get to your late 20s, it's, oh, great, I'm in a job I hate.
Yeah.
But, like, that's all there is.
Ooh, actually, I've got one.
Mm-hmm.
It sticks with the theme. Spring.
Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't really, like, focus. I mean, I get it, because he is, in that age group, but it's not really about that, because it's really... I mean, I love that movie. Don't get me wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But
Ariel, do you know it?
I know it. I know Justin and Aaron. I've talked to them about it. I'm very familiar. Very.
Okay.
It's before sunrise, but, with Lovecraft.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And accidentally Lovecraftian.
Yeah.
Yeah. But a big part of that film is going on a kind of walkabout tour to discover who you are. Like, that's why he's on vacation.
Yeah, but how many of us go through a walkabout in our 20s to, like, learn ourselves?
How many people go on a gap year between high school and university? Like, nobody.
Nobody ever. What is a gap year? I've never heard that term before in my life.
I didn't do that, so I can't relate to it.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize the podcast was all about you.
Oh, the sass! I love it.
Shit! No,
my God! If you can't relate to something because you haven't gone through it, girl,
no,
like, it's gonna be a long journey.
Oh my God! No, you're twisting my words. I'm aware of that. I'm just saying what I was talking about was not that. I was saying.
Backtrack. Dig yourself a little deeper.
Okay, no, you're right.
Dig up, boy. Dig up.
Okay. Spring is so good. Oh my God.
Anyway, my original point was just that, these girls are treated as outcasts in part because of the way that they look and the way that they act, but also I think because they haven't undergone this physical transformation that all of these other, let's be frank, dickheads at this school have gone through.
Mm-hmm.
All of the other teenagers in this movie, I was going to say they're all dickheads, and I was going to say, oh, but Sam. But I think we should talk about Sam.
Let's talk about Sam.
The first time I saw this film, I was like, he's the nice guy. Oh, I don't want him to die. I want him and Bridget to get together. And every subsequent time that I see it, I'm like, Sam's gross.
Yeah. Sam is so
Really?
problematic. Yes.
Wait.
Icky.
Okay.
There's.
I'm gonna play the dumb white boy in this episode. So explain.
Okay, Danielle Hampton's character Trina. She has this brief little moment, like the way she's constantly coming after him. One, it's made to look like it's super, super desperate, but she has a brief throwaway line at one point where she says, I can't believe I went out with that guy. Okay, fine. Don't really think too much of it. And then later, right before she gets killed, spoilers, she has this little moment where she gets mad at Bridget for having...
She feels like Bridget has stolen him.
Yeah, and she says that he's a virgin hound or a cherry hound. She calls him a cherry hound. And,
yeah.
He'll fuck you and leave you. And she starts crying and like really regretting it. So clearly she was pressured into sex when she was too young by this guy who's clearly older and has graduated high school, but still hangs around the high school to pick up virgins and deflower them. Like that is his role. That's what he does. So he may be fine with Bridget, but in the grand scheme of things, he is obscenely problematic.
Yeah. And I think the inference is meant to be that had all the stuff with Ginger not been going on, that's what he would have been doing with Bridget, or would have still tried to do with Bridget.
Well, they wouldn't necessarily cross paths, though, unless that was happening, right?
I do think there was a part of that relationship where he actually felt a genuine connection with her. Because I think he was willing to write her off with the whole like, oh, I think it was a lycanthrope, sir. And he's trying to catch her and be like, you don't know what the fuck this is. And she knows. And he's immediately taken aback and stunned. And he never does try and get in her pants. He's just enjoying spending time with her. So at the same time as being really problematic, you get this kind of weird bonding thing happening. So I think he did start to care for her, but he's still a dick. Like he's still an insanely problematic character.
He even says at one point, though, to Bridget, like, I don't feel that way about you. Like, I don't want that. And maybe it's because she's too young, because she skipped a grade and whatever. But I agree. You're right. I did catch that line from Trina. I think
if I had a nickel, I just have to say, if I had a nickel for every time a guy said, I'm just not into you that way, and then 180, everything went in a completely different direction, and he was clearly into me, like, I would be really fucking rich.
Yeah. And it probably involved parties and alcohol and situations where you're like, I don't know. I wasn't feeling it before, but now I am.
So is that like the guy's way of being like, I'm not interested, in the hopes that, the girl will like chase after him and like want it to happen, and then they'll be like, it's like them excusing themselves for like wanting, for basically like fucking them? No,
I think it's their way of their way of making it clear that it's exactly that. It's control. It's their way of being like, nah, I'm not that into you, but maybe I'd fuck you. And that's kind of it. So like, they're not into you. They don't want to be with you, but they're definitely interested in getting down and getting out. And that's it.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's all about the fucking.
Oh, it's all about the fucking.
That's the reason why he's dealing drugs in his rape van at the school, is because he's using the opportunity to sell drugs to teenagers to scope for potential people to sleep with.
So,
and to profit, obviously.
And to profit.
So then do you feel bad for him when he dies? I mean, that's obviously his comeuppance, but do you think he has a turning point in the movie where you're like, oh, you know what, he's changed?
I'm all about that redemptive arc. I mean, I'm a big fan just in life of really understanding people's motivation. I've forgiven a lot of people of a lot of bullshit because I can see how they got to that bad behavior, and I feel sympathetic for it. I feel fairly sympathetic for him at the end, but he was such a toxic dude that by the time he does get killed, I don't totally care. Like, I'm kind of fine with it. He just seems like collateral damage to me, honestly.
Interesting. I mean, like, admittedly, like, on this second viewing of mine, I heard Trina say that line about him, and I don't think I realized fully that that's who she was talking about.
I didn't realize that either until this rewatching, honestly.
It's really buried in there. It's easy to miss, and part of it is that he seems like the nice guy alternative because the other guys are so awful.
Oh, yeah.
But they're stereotypically awful. Like, it's easy to know to hate them. Like, Jason is such a dick.
We have to move to Jason next. Like, absolutely. But Sam does help her for most of the climax. And even when when fucking Ginger tries to fuck him, he's like, no. I mean, granted, I would argue you could say it's because, she's like got werewolf titties and she's, like clearly not a human being.
Yeah, but he goes along with it for long enough to make you wonder.
Let's talk about that, though, for a second. Because the way you said, she's clearly not a human being. That's kind of the point. She's in the process of going through puberty. This is a month after she got her first period. So in theory, this transformation is her next period. So she is not even...
It's her in full menstrual mode.
Well, exactly. That's what's at the heart of the entire thing, right? Is this idea that women going through puberty and young women, once they hit puberty, are no longer really human. They become women in the fabric of society where they are considered consumable goods. And for Ginger, while she's in the throes of having her period and about to have this lycanthropic transformation, she's not human. So they don't consider her something that's consumable anymore because she's bleeding and she's gross. And she's literally turning into a monster. So she's also literally not human. But that's what's in this. At the heart of it all is the monstrous things that happen to women when they go through puberty. And then it's just kind of, we want to consume you, but we don't really give a shit about you.
Yeah, it's almost like a double dose, right? Because there's the horror to be found in puberty as a process that only happens once to teenagers.
Gross word, by the way. I'm sorry. I've never liked the word puberty.
Right.
That's not related. I'm just saying I hate that word.
I get it.
Way to undercut it. But yeah, so there's puberty, but then there's also the menstruation, which obviously is brought about by puberty, but it's one of those things where we don't often see horror movies about any other women going through menstruation. Like, you see it in this focalized point. So it's the perfect moment to capture how monstrous Ginger truly is, because it's like a double whammy of like, oh my god, puberty and bleeding, go!
Exactly.
Yeah, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, werewolf titties equals metaphor. That's what we're saying.
Okay, so no, because in the scene where she's about to fuck, or trying to fuck Sam, she has like, it's like the dog nipples where they're like on her stomach. But then when she's in full werewolf mode, she literally has like werewolf tits where tits are supposed to be. So I was very much like, wait, does she still have the nipples on her belly? I don't know. I mean, not the important question. I understand that, but I was really, I was really wanting to know the anatomy of the werewolf.
I did like the fact, though, that the creature designs are specific to gender in this film. Like, there was deliberate attempts to distinguish Ginger's transformation from Jason's, because he just looks like he's having a really disgusting acne outbreak.
Yeah. Yes.
But he also looks more traditionally werewolf, whereas she has the sexy transformation.
I disagree with that.
He looks more like a leper to me.
Yes.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, that's great. No, I agree with that. I mean, they both have the fucking teeth problem, but yeah, like lepers. I mean, I was thinking acne like Joe, but once you said leper, I was like, oh, that's a more apt, I think, comparison. Mm-hmm. And also, we don't see him again after he's cured.
No. Which honestly, I'm fine with, because fuck that guy.
I mean, you know, he sucks. The pissing blood scene, but whenever I see someone pissing blood, like...
That's a way to get men, right there, if you want to make men upset.
It's that, and it's cabin fever when he's peeing and, like, pouring ammonia on his dick.
Yeah.
I mean, like, fuck, knock on wood. I've never had an STD.
I thought you were about to say, fuck, I poured ammonia on my dick.
No.
I was like, whoa!
I poured lots of things on my dick, but ammonia is not one of them.
Okay, well, we're not going into, like, a chocolate syrup story.
Oh my god, no. Okay.
I'm sorry, a what now?
Okay, so I was gonna tell you all. So, like, no. I cut my thumb earlier today, and I had a waterproof Band-Aid on it, and I, like, ripped it off. There was, like, a sticky residue. Okay, sticky is my least...
Oh my god, where is this going?
Wait, I have a point. Sticky is my least favorite tactile sensation. So, food things and sex and me don't mix. I don't like sticky. But whenever I say that, there's always a cum joke to be made out of it. You know, it's like, well, you're gay. You like cum. And I'm like, I don't just bathe in cum. I don't want sticky cum all over me all the time.
Oh my god, I'm totally envisioning you in, like, the
dying.
bathroom.
Wait. But
like in the bathtub from Hostel Part 2.
But
it's just cum.
No. But here's the thing. I do like cum a lot. Like, I'm kind of a cum fetishist, but it's only sticky if you rub it on yourself and thin it out, or if you get it wet. If it's just a puddle on you, it's fine. But that's it. So I like the idea of cum, but I just don't want it to stick to me.
I am going on record. This is my favorite guest appearance on any podcast ever.
I just call this Thursday now.
Anyway, but no, so chocolate syrup is not something I ever want on my dick, because it's sticky, it's gross.
Oh, dear.
That's the best.
We're leaving that in, by the
segment I
way.
think
We
I've
have to
ever
leave that
had.
in.
Oh, yeah, no. I mean...
Amazing.
We're X-rated for a reason.
Oh my god.
I don't know what we were talking about, to be honest.
When he pees blood.
We were talking about Jason.
Oh, yeah.
When he
Let me
pees
say,
blood.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, yeah, it hurt me. I've never had an STD, knock on wood. That was what I was doing, knock on wood. But
Yeah, I feel like it's a bit of a kind of like a gonorrhea joke, right? Like it hurts to pee, only in this case, ooh, it's blood.
Or like a UTI.
yeah.
But I guess guys get that way less frequently than women, so it's not a thing you think about.
Very infrequent.
Yeah, women get it a lot more frequently than men, for sure.
Yeah. They suck.
For women. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely poor us.
P.S.
Oh, yeah, men have it so easy, which is, I think, again, why this movie is so good, right? Because it's doing such a good job of capturing a lot of the nuances of a female transformation in both a monstrous fashion, but also just in a very humane way. Like, girls go through this process, and it can be horrific, or you are treated horrifically by people. But this is, I don't know, it's tricky because I love the end of this film. I think it's sad and poetic, and this film
It's
is
so
really,
sad.
it's hard. It's a tragedy, but I'm there with you, Trace. Like, I think Ginger is so fucking boss. I would have loved to have seen a movie where she gets to embrace that power and just goes on a fucking rampage.
See, I wanted her to take the cure and be like, okay, all right. Before we get to this ending, I want to talk about fucking Pamela and her
I thought
willingness.
you were going to say come again.
Yes.
Can we talk about more? Sorry, no. So we did Seed of Chucky last week, and literally I was like, "Can we talk about some cum? I want to talk about cum right now." Okay, thanks. Let's talk about it. I love cum. Anyway,
This is how the gays are perverting America.
no, seriously though.
One podcast at a time. Yes.
When I was growing up, I had this nightmare that, like, if I went to hell, that hell would be, taking the thing that you, like, love the most, and, like, it's like you're just, like, forced in overabundance. And I had this, like, nightmare that I would, like, be forced by Satan to drink, like, a bowl of cum. And
God, that is so fucking Christian of you.
No, yeah, for sure. No, because like every time I masturbate, because Christians think masturbation is a sin. So every time something bad happened to me in life, I thought it was because it was like checking off. Like every time I masturbated, something bad. It was like building up like a karma of masturbation sins.
It's just that cup in hell just gets a little bit more full every time.
Exactly.
Oh my God.
So I was like paying off my masturbation sin debt. Anyway, I wanted to talk about Pamela before we got to the end of this movie, because this bitch is willing to blow up her house.
Yeah, man. It's the power of motherhood.
She sees blood-soaked panties and is like, I'm just gonna spray these and it's fine.
That was apparently an ad lib by Mimi Rogers.
Ah.
And it's so brilliant because, like, any mother would be unfazed by seeing blood-soaked panties when they know their daughter just got their first period. They're gonna
Right.
have stains on their underwear because they're not gonna know what to do when it comes to, like, when to change their pad or their tampon and, like, how frequently and,
Yeah, and you try to hide it in the laundry basket.
I have a question.
Yeah, but they're
I have a
gonna see
question.
it because they do your laundry. Yes.
Okay, so if you don't wear a tampon or wear a pad, is that a more than normal amount of blood to experience during a period?
It really does depend. Some women do have heavier periods. Some women do have lighter periods. It varies. For me, for instance, because of the fact that I have PCOS, I had light periods my whole life. I never had cramps. And then I got an IUD put in to help with my symptoms and to help as part of treatment. And all of a sudden it was like I was initiated into this club of pain and suffering, and it sucked.
Oh, God.
But the same is, all of a sudden it got heavier as well. So it changes for women throughout their lives, depending on what birth control method they use. And thankfully now we have other options aside from just pads and tampons, because pads you feel like you're wearing a diaper. Tampons do all kinds of nasty things to you. And then there's the Diva Cup, the glorious Diva Cup that yields like 0 headaches during the month and like just make you feel like a human. It's amazing. Oh yeah, it's a fucking horrific gong show of a process. It sucks.
I mean, I don't envy women at all.
Makes sense. But when she holds up the panties and sprays them to like remove the stain, I'm like, that is such a typical mom thing to do. Any mother would do that. That's so normal, and it's perfect in its normalcy. Like completely perfect in its normalcy.
It is.
I think the offer, however extreme, for her to blow up her own house in order to protect her 2 daughters from the pile of bodies that they have been accumulating, that's just kind of the next ridiculous extension of that. Like, yes, I'm willing to clean your bloodstained clothes. I'm also willing to destroy evidence and flee the scene of a crime.
But no, I mean, like, I agree with that. No, so I found out later in my life, when I was like mid-20s, I like got drunk and I confronted my parents about like the things they said to me when I came out to them. And I found out that one of the reasons that my mom like didn't believe that I was gay when I told her was because she found my cum rag. Which is a washcloth that I had under my bed that I used to come in. And
It's not sanitary.
it's not. Paired with a Playboy magazine that my friend gave me.
Were you looking for like a glimpse of dick on like, the
No,
side?
no. My friend came over and we used to masturbate together. He was straight, like not together, but like we would watch porn, like we would masturbate like next to each other and not touch each other. But he was like, "Do you want this Playboy?" And I'm like, trying to be straight. I'm like, "What am I gonna do? Say no? I don't want your Playboy. Like I can't do that." So I took it and I just kept it under my bed next to my cum rag. So my mom just was like, when I told her I was gay, I guess the first thing that went to her head was, "But I found your cum rag with this Playboy next to it."
So they must be connected.
Yeah.
Yeah. But again, like when my mom, I'm like 25, 26 when she told me this, and I'm like, "You found my cum rag and you never said anything." My dad told me that later that she asked him about it and she was like, "Should we talk to him?" And Dad was like, "No, don't say anything to him."
And yet, wouldn't you have maybe cared to have like a Mimi Rogers style conversation?
Right?
So that you could maybe work some stuff out?
Well, okay, so she was very concerned about her daughters having periods. Very much.
Oh,
so.
yeah. It was a rite of passage as much for her as it was for her daughters. It was her ability to be like, "Oh my God, I have all this wisdom that I can give you now, and you'll have no choice but to listen to me because you don't talk to anybody else." So it's like this whole thing.
And obviously that dad is like completely useless. Like I love how checked out the father is. So it's they have a mother and then they also have like the figure of a man who sits at the dining room table with them.
Yeah, basically. And the thing with Pam is, and I wrote about this actually, I did a piece recently comparing Brightburn to Ginger Snaps and like different depictions of the horrors of puberty. And I, briefly mention, and I think maybe I thought about it more than I wrote about it, but Pam and Elizabeth Banks in Brightburn, they both do what we've been seeing parents do when their children are accused of heinous things. And that's denial, support, and just erasure. Like, and that's what Pam is ultimately doing is, "Oh no, they did this thing. Nobody's taking my babies away from me. I will do whatever it takes to protect them." And it's, deny, deny, deny. They may have killed a girl. Who cares? They're my babies. I have to defend them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, especially after Columbine.
I don't know what y'all's thoughts on. Well, I know what Joe's thoughts on Brightburn. I think Brightburn's fine, but I think Elizabeth Banks is great in that movie, and I will defend her till I die. But this portrayal by Amy Rogers is very different than what that is. But I did not remember I'll get a match, we'll burn it down, I'm going to leave your husband, I'm going to leave your dad, like, we're great. I don't remember that. And so when I saw this tonight, I was like, holy fuck. And so then when she doesn't come back, I was very much... And that's why I like this movie, but I don't love it, because I was more invested in the Pamela story than I was in the Ginger Bridget story. Which maybe says more about me. I know. But...
Well, okay, so there's two different ways to look at this. One is logistically from an actual filmmaking standpoint. I think that they only had Mimi Rogers for a certain amount of time, so I don't know if they also ran out of that. The commentary didn't shed any light on that, but there may have been deleted scenes. I didn't watch those either. I'm useless at research, apparently. But I think one of the big things was that Fawcett, because he's most interested in telling the story about the sisters, he uses Bridget's deception. Like she effectively lures Pamela away so that they have the house free, so that they can try to execute the curse, and then they will run away. So they'll ditch mom. Bless her heart, but they don't want to run away with her. So I think you're meant to assume that everything just happens so quickly. And then at the end of the day, like, what do you want? Pamela to wander down the stairs and see her daughters dead and maybe transforming? Like, it's just not the ending that I think he wanted people to leave on.
Because it's not about her, and I get it. But...
Or to kill her.
Yeah, kinda. I mean, I wanted something, because going into the sequel, she's not in it. I mean, that's obviously like a money thing and a contractual thing, and she's probably like, what the fuck, sequel to Ginger Snaps? But I will say, the Wikipedia says, Mimi Rogers readily agreed to play the mother Pamela, saying that she liked the black humor and comic relief in the role. So that's the big comedic centerpiece of this movie is her. But we can, not talk about it. We can talk about it. But I think that's why I didn't like the sequel is because it's just Bridget in a house.
No, she's in an asylum.
Oh, I'm sorry, an asylum. With Tatiana Maslany, and she's seeing visions of Ginger, who is still dead.
Yeah.
Actually, you know what? That's my high school self. I was like, oh, good, Ginger's really alive. And then she wasn't. And I was mad.
I've never seen the sequel, actually. I've seen the prequel, but I don't remember it very well.
The prequel's kind of a remake. Kind of?
Yeah, kind of. So it's set a couple hundred years in the past during, like, the frontier
But it's like their
times.
ancestors.
Right. Yeah, so it's meant to be a bit of an origin story about how white settlers completely fucked over indigenous people.
Of course.
But also there's a heavy dose of colonialism. But I think you're also meant to infer, like, this is kind of how the werewolf got into things like suburbia in the original Ginger Snaps.
Actually, that's my thing with this movie is, like, we never learn who the werewolf is, the original werewolf.
No.
And I get that's not important.
How did the process begin? Where did that... Yeah, it's like the movie is not interested in that. It's just a vehicle to tell the story.
Yeah. Well, because in a normal werewolf movie, it would be like, oh, like, that's a twist. This person's the werewolf. And they kill that werewolf. like 20 minutes into this movie. In a gruesome way.
It's a little bit American Werewolf in London, though, where you don't really learn who that original person is or how it happened. It's just kind of we stumbled into this.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
But I always appreciated that idea more. Films don't need to provide those kinds of answers when they're telling a particularly meaty, interesting story like this. I'm happy to not have all the answers about the mythology. And it's interesting, though, because I think people might have expected something like that in the sequel and the prequel, which were shot at the same time.
Oh.
Part of it is they're on smaller budgets, they're smaller casts. I think the other good thing about the prequel is that it's far more ambitious visually because it's actually set in the frontier times, so they're living in a fort and those kinds of things. But the scripts are definitely weaker, and because they were shooting back to back, you can kind of get the sense that people were tired and stretched out a little bit.
And the director of the sequel is the editor of the first one. And
so it's a Saw situation.
Yes. And the director of the prequel has only done one other movie, and he is one of the 3 directors of A Christmas Horror Story, which P.S. is very good.
Yeah.
It's an anthology film from 2015. And also the editor of this movie who directed the second movie also edited A Christmas Horror Story. Oh, I'm sorry. No, he directed part of that one too. So, oh, fuck. Okay, wait. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Complete the train of thought, Trace.
A Christmas Horror Story has 3 directors. It's Brett Sullivan, who edited Ginger Snaps and directed Ginger Snaps 2. It's Stephen Hoban, who produced this movie, who I talked about at the beginning of this episode. And then Grant Harvey, who directed the prequel Ginger Snaps.
Yeah, interesting.
So I'm guessing it's Canadian.
Probably.
But anyway, not important. Really interesting factoid, but really good. Yeah. Where are we going next?
And so great for conversation.
I have 0 to contribute about the sequels or the prequels because I got nothing.
I was saying, y'all haven't seen A Christmas Horror Story, apparently, which, P.S., is very fun.
I have not, but I would be glad to check it out. It sounds kind of insane.
It was one of those direct-to-DVD movies starring William Shatner, which you were like, there's no way that's good. And then you watch it and you're like, oh, this is kind of fun.
Wait, that's not the one that has Santa Claus fighting Krampus?
Yes, it is. It is that one.
Oh, that one?
Yeah.
Then I have seen it.
Yeah.
Oh, I know that one.
Yeah, the cover art unfortunately makes it look really bad, but it is a lot of fun.
Yeah, the cover art makes it look like poo. I think it came out like the year after Krampus did. Anyway, so
do we want to start to wrap things up? Do people have other things they want to talk about with Ginger Snaps? The legacy?
I don't have much else. I mean, the film has an amazing legacy, right? It's obviously resonated with people for a very specific reason. And I think it's resonated with female audiences for a reason that is largely our own, which is kind of interesting in and of itself.
I'm actually very glad that we had you. I mean, you're great, but I just like No, but like just to have a female perspective on this particular movie, because I don't think we would have been able to do this justice without you. So
thanks.
Thank you, by the way. No, I mean,
My
'cause, like,
pleasure.
no, there are things that you pointed out tonight that I was like, oh fuck, I didn't think about that because I'm not a woman.
Well, yeah. That's the beauty of different perspectives, right?
Right?
Mm-hmm. Normally, we just talk out of our asses.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, so do I, like 90% of the time. But sometimes it hits. So, hey.
I just talk about cum, so I mean, like, it's fine.
Okay, so with that, how about we play our game?
I say, what the fuck is your game, Joe?
All right, so this is inspired by your earlier comment.
About cum?
No. I'm not going back to that.
One track mind.
Sorry, I just want to talk about cum. I just want to talk about listeners. If you want to talk about cum, DM me. Don't do that. Don't do that. Sorry,
You're inviting a lot of danger.
I know.
into your
Yeah,
life.
no, don't do that. Don't do that. Continue, Joe.
The funny thing, Ariel, is that if you ever feel like having a really shitty time, just do like a Twitter poll about how often men get sent unsolicited pictures or comments and that kind of stuff compared to women. It's like 0.
Yeah, women get it way more, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
Okay, I was like, are you trying to insinuate that men get it more? That's a lie.
No, I'm suggesting women get it a lot more. Men get it like virtually nothing.
Okay, I'm sorry. I know it's like super offensive, but I would love to get unsolicited dick pics.
No.
I'm sorry. I finished my
I
bottle
wish
of
I could. Okay,
I know.
you know what would be great then? Okay, put out a call to arms for all of the women of film Twitter and be like, ladies, forward me your dick pics. If you don't want to deal with the
There you
harassment,
go.
wine. Oh my god!
just put like some weird code into your various emails, DMs, inboxes, what have you, where all of that shit just gets filtered directly to you, and then you can respond to them and freak them the fuck out because they're a bunch of heterosexual douchebags.
Wait, I love that idea. Actually, and I want to do this. I will repost the dick pics with a funny comment of what I think the dick looks like. Oh my god. Ladies.
I think this is brilliant. I think
Please
this could
do that.
work.
Please do that. Please send me your dick
We
pics.
solved the problem. It's like world peace.
I'm gonna put like a movie quote under the dick based on what the dick looks like, and that's gonna be the thing.
I genuinely love this idea. The more we discuss it and the more ridiculous it gets, the more I kind of love it.
Let's do it. Let's do
You're
it.
gonna have to work on your Photoshop skills because I want to see like hats. I want to see
I
stars.
can't do Photoshop. No, I can't do Photoshop. I'll do like the like when the iPhone editor where you can like draw, like you can draw with your finger on it. I'll just put like a little top hat on it. It's fine.
Oh, you'll like Perez Hilton that shit or something.
Yeah, I'm gonna press Hilton it, and then I'll become famous. And yeah, that's it. That was my life.
And it all started here with just a casual conversation about
Come. Okay. What is your game, Joe? What is your game?
Okay. So the game proper is what would a, not puberty, but kind of like what we talked about earlier, what would a 20-something equivalent of a coming-of-age, puberty, body horror kind of thing, what would a quintessential 20-something film look like?
Did you make that up while we were fucking having that conversation about 20-year-olds?
Yeah, man.
God damn it, Joe.
Damn.
I'm just this good.
So what would a quintessential film about late 20-something life look like?
Mm-hmm. It could be body horror. It could be...
It has to be a body horror. Oh, for me, it's body horror.
That's something that the genre almost never explores, right?
See, I feel like it's something a little bit more in like some weird existential kind of cerebral territory where it's more about existential angst than anything else.
Okay.
And like it's monotony. Maybe even like a weird Spike Jonze kind of situation, a la like Being John Malkovich. Like that kind of visual aesthetic.
Yes.
But with
Way
like
to my
this
heart.
really weird kind of like monotonous repetitive bullshit, and then you find out that it's actually like this second circle of hell or something, and they've just, or they're in purgatory or something, but that's like late 20-something life where you're basically hammering your head up against a wall and you never actually get anywhere because you don't have the wherewithal or sense of self to be able to be like, wait, no, this isn't right for me. I'm gonna make a change. So you just do the same bullshit that tortures yourself.
Yes,
I like that.
like a Groundhog Day, Happy Death Day kind of thing, where it's like
Yeah.
it's cyclical, but it's also
But it's also linear. Yeah. Like, it looks like it could be cyclical and repetitive, but it's actually linear and going along a steady trajectory towards basically the same thing every day. But it's not the same thing. Like, whereas something like Groundhog Day is literally a repeat of the same day, this is, no, it's a new day. You're just forcing yourself to go through the exact same thing because you don't know how to do something for yourself.
Know what I would love to is then you tack on horror-themed Clue-style different endings. So
Yes.
it's like a choose your own, like one of them is you get married. And one of them is like you get promoted.
And one of them is you become a freelance writer and you have no money ever again.
That's the scariest one of all.
Is it though? Because I think I'm happier now that I've done that. I think. I say with a giant question mark. I don't know.
No. And this is some quick thinking on your feet, girl, because whenever Joe gives me his fucking games, and I have to sit here, but, so have y'all ever seen Tetsuo the Iron Man?
I have.
Okay.
I've heard of it.
Okay, so it's this, I think it's Japanese, maybe it's Korean, but it's one of those. Fuck, maybe it's not. It's Asian. I'm gonna figure out what it is before I edit it. But no, it's about a man who slowly becomes a machine, and there's a whole thing where he rapes his girlfriend with his drill penis because he's becoming a machine. But I was thinking about.
No, I think I'm thinking of a different movie. Never mind. I haven't seen this one. I know of it.
All right, so maybe you're thinking of Akira because there's a character named Tetsuo in Akira, which is an anime.
No, I'm thinking of some other completely batshit movie about a dude who goes into a prison and there's a lot of really crazy fight scenes.
Is that
I'll think of it for after. Continue your story and I'll look it up.
Okay,
so Tetsuo the Iron Man is 1989 Japanese cyberpunk horror film.
Japanese, right. Basically, it's mostly a silent movie, but it's about this man who slowly is becoming a machine. And he is becoming more and more metal, or I guess iron in the case of the title, as the movie goes on. It's very short. It's not a movie you would just put on to show people. But yeah, the infamous scene is where he basically he's having sex with his girlfriend, he reveals his penis, which is a big drill, and he rapes her with it and kills her, sorry. But I was thinking about our society, and I know it's a millennial thing, but again, we're of the age, we're all in our 30s, our obsession with social media, and how that could somehow take over our bodies. I don't know how it would do that, but somehow kind of like a technological body horror, merging with the internet type thing. That's my suggestion.
Interesting.
So it's almost a bit like Cam.
Yeah, or maybe even not even becoming your body, but you're dissolving into the interwebs. Pieces of you start disappearing, or Pulse.
Ooh.
Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It was Ricky O I was thinking of, by the way.
Oh, I've never seen that, but I know what that is. That's the really, really, really gore. Is it Miike? Is it Miike? Maybe it's not.
I want to say, hang on. No, it is Nai Choi Lam. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right.
No, I've seen GIFs from that movie, but I've never seen the movie. Yeah,
it's very
super
gifable.
Gory.
And absurd as
that's
fuck.
Dangerous.
Yes. Joe, do you have an answer, or are we moving on?
No, I am happy and interested in both of your films. I will be looking for a 500-word pitch in the morning.
Eat me.
So
fuck you.
So Jason Blum, now that you've listened to this episode, clearly give us money.
Yeah,
and we'll put this together for you. Basically.
Yeah. Or anything else that you will hire us for.
Basically.
Yeah. So, are we done? Are we moving on to the end?
Yes.
Okay. So, before we announce what we're covering next week, Ariel.
Yes.
Plug away. What would you like to plug right now?
Well, I'm doing a bunch of work for Atom Tickets, or Atom Insider, which is really fun and really great. So that's ATOM. Yeah, I can spell. So just, I've mentioned it to a lot of people and they're like, Atom, like Eve? I'm like, no, like an atom. And they're like, oh, okay, gotcha. So I've got a bunch of stuff up there. I just recently, as I mentioned, did a piece about Brightburn and Ginger Snaps and pubescent horror. So that's up there. I also, what else do I have coming up? That's a really interesting question. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head, but you can find my work there. You can find me on all social media platforms at AFIS8, AFIS8. So I'm on Twitter a lot, so you can find all my stuff there, or you can find any of my work on my website, arielfisher.com.
Nice.
Awesome. And if you want to find us on Twitter, you can reach me at Traced Thurman.
And I am at B Stole My Remote. That's the letter B.
And if you're tweeting about the podcast, please be sure to use the hashtag horrorqueers in your tweets so we can find you. You can email us at horrorqueers@gmail.com, or you can go to our Facebook page, because as we announced last week, we now have a Facebook page.
Yay!
Yes. If you have 2 seconds, please head on over to iTunes or the Apple Podcasts app and leave us a rating. Or leave us a review if you want to type something out that is nice. If it's mean, don't fucking do anything. If you want even more content, please visit our Patreon page at patreon.com/horrorqueers, where you can sign up for exclusive bonus episodes covering recent horror films like Ma. Plus, if you're a patron, you'll get a newsletter on the first of each month that will let you know our film schedule for that month, and you can catch up ahead of time. Joe, what are we covering next week?
All right. So in case people have forgotten, we are in the midst of our summer franchise season. So this was week number 3. So number 4, we are heading into Tales from the Crypt territory with Demon Night.
Ooh.
I've only seen this on TV, and I'm excited to watch it because the Blu-ray is waiting in my living room for me right now.
But of course it is. And I have never seen it, so
Neither have
this is going to be
I.
interesting for me.
I remember liking it. It's very disturbing, if I remember correctly. But we'll see. But it's Jada Pinkett Smith wearing a butch lesbian haircut, even though her character's maybe not a lesbian. I don't know. We're probably going to call her lesbian.
I'm going to read her as a lesbian because that's what I need.
Yeah, there you go. So, all of that being said, I think we can cross out Ginger Snaps.
Yes, and cross out Horror Queers.
This episode was brought to you by the Bloody Disgusting Podcast Network, delivering your weekly horror podcast fix. To find more episodes of this show and others, please visit bloodydisgusting.com/podcast network.
Get in, losers. This is the Lady Killers, a Feminine Rage podcast. I'm Jen.
I'm Sammy.
I'm Rocco.
And I'm May. Our podcast is a tribute to the female-identifying killers in horror and more.
Each episode will feature us, your Supreme Court of female murderers, discussing our favorite lady killers, from your Julias and Jennifers to your Carries and Christines.
We'll tell her story, decide if it's good for her horror, and answer the most important question of all: would we die for her?
Join us on Thursdays as we pull on our sweaters, snatch our ice picks, sharpen our scissors, and honor the lady killers who live on the silver screen.
No boys were harmed in the making of this podcast.
Yet.
Hello, I'm Shelby Scott, the host of Scare You to Sleep, a podcast where I tell you spooky bedtime stories full of creepy sound effects and music that is soothing yet unsettling to help immerse you into a world of horror. This is a show for those of us who have realized horror can be a strange but relaxing escape from reality. Speaking of escapes, sometimes I lead you through guided nightmares, like a guided meditation, but instead of flowery meadows, I take you on a journey through your own personal nightmare. So come get lost in the terror with me. Listen to Scare You to Sleep wherever you listen to podcasts, or find us online at bloody.fm. Sweet screams.